On this episode of the Carolina Sports Guy, we're diving in and looking at this first release depth chart for the Carolina Panthers as we enter into the first preseason game against the Colts. Folks, we got some questions. Probably got more questions than answers. Before we get into today's video, make sure you subscribe, folks. It doesn't cost anything. Pound that like button. Leave me some comments. I love the dialogue. Make sure you hit that bell notification to be notified of future content on the Panthers, Charlotte Hornets, Carolina Hurricanes, and major sports in both North and South Carolina. All right, folks, I'm going to break this down into two episodes. Today, I want to cover the offensive edition, looking at the depth chart. And I found some interesting tidbits. And I tell you, as I study this, a lot of times we get fooled. I know early on in this channel, if you've been following me, probably over a month ago, I did our early 53-man roster breakdown, and man, Tommy Stevens is gone, and next thing you know, David Moore, the offensive lineman's released this week, and you're bringing some more people in, and what you think might be is not what is. So sometimes, just because you hear some things on some players in training camp, or you don't hear things on players, doesn't mean that's where they're going to be listed. Because you got to remember, these coaches are with these players every day. It's not just on the field. It's not just practice. It's in the classroom. It's in between, the camaraderie with the players and coaches. It's what they're picking up in the books. So, folks, it's going to be kind of interesting. So today, we're going to talk about the depth chart of the offense. And let's start with probably our best position we have on offense, the wide receivers. The two starters, without a doubt, we know it's DJ Moore and Robby Anderson. And at one time, folks, we had some doubts if Robby Anderson was going to be here or if Robby Anderson might slip down to number 3. But the thing about Robby Anderson, he's a true professional. Remember, he does have a benefit of working with Sam Darnold before in the past with the Jets, so that's going to give him a nod as well. So I see these as our two starters. Now, the guy they got backing up DJ Moore is Terrace Marshall Jr. He'd be our third receiver. The thing I like about him, I've heard early on, we could even work him in the slot. And as big as he is, that's going to be a nightmare mismatch for opposing teams with a linebacker or a defensive back because he is a monster. So I see if somebody needs a little bit of relief, he'll come in and play. If somebody gets hurt, he'll come in and play. If we go 3 receivers, he's definitely going to be on the field. Receiver number 4, the one backing up Robby Anderson, is David Moore, the free agent acquisition from Seattle. And, I think this is a guy that can return punts. He's a veteran. He's been around. You kind of need that when you got some of these younger guys on the team. So, I think he's kind of safe to say he's going to be number 4 guy. Now, here's where it gets interesting. I had no doubt in my mind who guy number 5 was, and that's Siye Smith, the rookie out of South Carolina, 6th-round pick. Siye Smith has been impressive. The good thing I like about Siye Smith, though, is we can use him as a kick returner, punt returner. And the guy has got good hands. He's been playing well. I just think he needs the reps. He needs the seasoning. He needs to get some experience. He can move up this chart. But right now, you're going to probably see him active on game day, but probably more returning kicks. He may be getting on a few plays, but I wouldn't look to see this guy starting anytime soon. And don't be disappointed if you even go a game and maybe he's only on the field for a couple of pass plays, if that. It's just because of the depth we have at that position. Now, here's where I'm raising up flags. Keith Kirkwood, I know he took an unfortunate hit, was in concussion protocol. Wasn't his fault when JT Ibe or Ibe, whatever, the guy who had a short stay in training camp, took a headshot on him. But that guy Kirkwood listed at receiver number 6. Now, I know he's got some background at Temple with Matt Rule and gang. But it's just interesting that they have him at number 6 because I had him basically at receiver number 8 not making the roster. And I don't know if we could put him on the practice squad or not. I'm kind of hoping this is falsified. Not that I'm rooting against him. I'm just rooting for a couple other players. They had him over Zylstra and Omar Bayless. Now, that is a battle because we could keep 7. If they got Kirkwood at 6 and he remains stable and these guys don't impress, if it's between Zylstra and Bayless, I want to go with Bayless because he's young. I think he can grow. If we cut him, he's not going to make the practice squad. I really feel another team whose wide receiver needed would pick him up. Zylstra, he's a proven veteran. I mean, he's been there before. I mean, he scored a touchdown last year on special teams against a football team. So, I mean, I really think that battle, looking at Kirkwood at number 6 on the depth chart, when you got Zylstra and Bayless being number 7 and 8, and you know, you got to look at that. One might be receiver number 4 on one side, and Bayless could be receiver 4 on the other. But you're still talking about receiver 7 and 8. And we're only going to keep 6 or 7 receivers, 7 at best. So it's going to be interesting to see if they don't pass Kirkwood, which one of these two guys is going to make it. All right, running back position. There's no doubt in my mind, I don't even really need to list it, but of course, CMC, Christian McCaffrey, is our number 1 running back. My eyeballs popped out of my head is how the team, the coaches put Reggie Bonifant as the number 2 running back. Now, a couple of years ago, I was really impressed with his game. I saw a lot out of him. I thought he did real well, and he did come down with some injuries. He was hurt. You know, he was cut, brought back. You know, he is still a young guy. But having him number 2 over Chuba Hubbard, who they've got down as number 3, this great running back, 4th-round pick out of Oklahoma State, was shocking to me. Now, I know we're going to at least keep 3 backs, so Hubbard's safe. But what come even more of a big surprise, other than Bonifant being the number 2 guy, they got Rodney Smith number 4. Now, I'm not shocked that he's at number 4. But they had Spencer Brown, number 5, the undrafted rookie from UAB, and people have talked glaringly about him. You know, that to me was only shocking because of who he's over on one guy. Same thing with Rodney Smith. They had Trenton Cannon all the way down to the 6th or 7th running back. If he's at 6 or 7, I don't think he'll make the roster. And maybe that's why they were trying him at slot receiver. Maybe that's why they've been playing him on special teams. They're trying to make sure they can keep him on the roster, and maybe they can keep one less back. If it's just running back ability, I think what the coaches are saying, Trenton Cannon's behind Bonifant, Hubbard, Rodney Smith, even Spencer Brown. But if you look at the overall, can he play special teams? Can he return kicks? Can he return punts? If he can do that duty, then his value will go up over Spencer Brown, probably even over Rodney Smith. He's not going to pass Hubbard, folks. But if Bonifant's number 2, it makes you wonder if the only way Cannon's going to make this roster, if it's special teams, because they've got him listed as the number 1 kick returner. So I did find that interesting, if he's going to make his money, his bread on that position alone. All right, interesting thing about the tight ends. They had 2 number 1 tight ends. They had a left tight end and a right tight end. And maybe we're going to play 2 tight end packages. But they definitely had Dan Arnold as the left tight end and Ian Thomas is a right tight end. Now that looks good on Thomas, but I normally am not used to seeing a tight end 1A and 1B. I'm used to seeing, you know, number 1 tight end, number 2 tight end. Now they had Tommy Tremble as the number 3 running back. As the number 3 tight end. But remember, this is a guy that also can play special teams. He also can spell a need at fullback, or we won't have to keep a fullback on the roster. So Tremble's not worried about going anywhere. It was just kind of shocking he wasn't number 2, and Ian Thomas was. And like I said, really, Ian Thomas was 1A, 1B with Dan Arnold. And then bringing up the rear, the one guy that I thought would be the number 4 guy, the guy that I thought maybe could steal Ian Thomas' spot, was Colin Thompson. I really saw good things in him last year, and I don't see us keeping 4 tight ends. So I think he'll be the one gone, unless this is just a smoke and mirrors are going on Ian Thomas, and he doesn't make the squad, and Thompson does. I don't know if Thompson can be eligible for the practice squad or not, but right now it's not looking good for him. Now, since we cut David Moore, let's look at the offensive line. They've got Cam Erving starting as your left tackle. And funny they say that, folks, because honestly, they've been playing Taylor Moore at left tackle during some of these practices. And maybe they see Cam Erving being the guy to start the season. Now, they got Trent Scott, who I thought would be a starter. But Trent Scott could be that valuable role, knowing if they're shaky on the offensive line. They've got Trent Scott being the backup left tackle at number 2. And bringing up the rear left tackle is Greg Little. And the only good thing I can say about Greg Little, I've got the 11 guys I'm going to talk about on the offensive line. I think that's how many we'll keep. And since David Moore's cut, Greg Little might find a place on his team. If he's the number 3 left tackle, he better hope he can play some guard too in case a guy gets hurt. And I'm kind of feeling, because he's been a bust at tackle, that maybe he'd be better at guard. But it remains to be seen. He's kind of hanging on by a ledge, folks. And I don't know about some of these guys that didn't put down here, like Caskey or Martez, Ivy Martez, or oh my God, some of the other guys that we had backing up, the Panasuik. If these guys will even make the team, maybe the practice squad. Left guard, they got Pat ELFLEIN. Now, if ELFLEIN can come in and start, I've heard terrible things about him when he played at Minnesota. You know, people say he's not that good. But if he's our starter, as bad as we might think we are, and my God, we putting this guy here, he's not that good. But maybe we signed him for a reason. He must be better than some of these guys we're not keeping and some of this unproven talent. And then they've got Dennis Daley out of South Carolina, and I like him a lot. I thought he could actually have started some at left tackle and at least start at guard. But they got him as the backup to ELFLEIN. So if ELFLEIN, if he starts stumbling or suffering, they can put Daley in as the number 2 left guard. Now, center, no doubt, Matt Paradis is the guy. And since we cut David Moore, the backup, the number 2 guy, is Sam Tecklenberg. Tecklenberg, coming out of Baylor, played for Rule. And this is a guy who I had making the practice squad primarily because he was a center. But this guy, if we don't have anybody else that can play it, maybe on this roster, because I don't know if he can play any guard or not, but if he's our backup center in case Paradis goes down or Paradis doesn't perform well, that's going to be good to have Tecklenberg in, and maybe this is a guy that can learn the system well. Right guard, they got John Miller. I'm not surprised there. I think Trent Scott is a better offensive lineman, but Scott's availability at playing either tackle or filling up anybody on the line, you know, they may have Dennis Daley as the second left tackle, but it may be a shot that Trent Scott might go in there. I mean, guard might be there at left guard. So we'll have to wait and see. But John Miller starting at right guard makes a lot of sense. And then they had Deonte Browni, the rookie, 6th-round pick out of Alabama, being the backup, the number 2 guy at right guard. And that makes sense. Bring him along. I think he'll get in some games. This is not to say John Miller's going to play bad, but I believe he was injured last year. A couple games he did get pulled. And Deonte Browni, if he can learn the role, he might be able to go in there and take that job and be the number 1 guy. And, of course, at right tackle, I see Taylor Moton playing left tackle. More folks could be the starter, but right now they've got Taylor Moton penciled in as the starting right tackle, which probably should be, and Brady Christensen being his backup. Now, Christensen's best bet if he can't get in the right tackle, maybe he'll play some right guard. I definitely think he's going to be a key reserve. It's kind of a learning year. And unless somebody goes down or gets hurt or they've got to throw Moton over on the left side, maybe they think Christensen can get some reps in and he can be a starter eventually at right tackle. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, quarterbacks. We know Sam Darnold's a starter. That's not going to be a surprise. Now, the big question is, and we've been talking about it the last couple of videos, folks, they put Will Grier and P.J. Walker both at number 2. Preseason is going to determine this, folks. I think in this first preseason game Sunday, being we're only playing 3 now and not 4, when we go in, and I know we're going to have a deeper practice squad. That's one of the positives of having 4 or 5 more guys on your practice squad than you're playing one more regular season game. But it's also good that you got 4 or 5 more guys on your practice squad, because making these cuts used to have 4 preseason games and make a decision. Now with only 3, and a lot of times, folks, that last preseason game come down to the last half a dozen guys. They already kind of knew who they wanted to keep. So being able to keep 4 more, maybe they're only going to have the angst of only having 3 games and having to only decide on 1 or 2 positions instead of a half a dozen, and you don't have this last preseason game. But, man, P.J. Walker, number 2, and Will Grier, number 2. You know that Darnold's going to start the first series, maybe play 2 series. I guess 1 week you're going to bring Grier in and work him the second quarter, and then maybe P.J. Walker does third and fourth quarter, or you're going to bring P.J. Walker in for the second quarter, part of the third, and then Will Grier gets the rest of the third and the fourth quarter. How they're going to do it, I think you can really look at the first 2 preseason games. They're probably going to flip-flop back and forth. And if one struggles or one excels, I think you're going to notice that by the last preseason game who gets more of the playing time. So it's up in the air right now. But are we going to, real question is, we're only going to keep 2 quarterbacks because if we cut P.J. Walker, he's not going to be on the practice squad. And if we cut Will Grier, he won't be on the practice squad either. And unless they can find somebody through the waiver wire to put on the practice squad or develop somebody else or somebody else that gets cut, they feels better than what we got, we may be only down to 2 quarterbacks instead of keeping 3. And of course, our kicker, Joey Sly, he's, unless he really shits the bed and we don't need to bring another kicker in, he's got a spot. So folks, what do you think of today's video? Did you like the the offensive edition of the 53-man roster, the depth chart? What do you see different? What changes would you like to see? What did you not like with this depth chart? Leave me some comments. Hit that bell notification to be notified of future content like today's video on the Panthers. Smash that like button. And by all means, folks, subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. And we'll see you on another edition of the Carolina Sports Guy.